Grog wakes up one winter morning with 3 rocks in his pouch. Yesterday, those 3 rocks could buy him 2 big pieces of dried mammoth from the tribe's storage cave. Today, the storage keeper wants 5 rocks for the same 2 pieces. Grog doesn't understand. The mammoth is the same mammoth. His rocks are the same rocks. But somehow, his rocks buy less meat. And next week, the storage keeper tells him it'll be 7 rocks for 2 pieces. Grog asks the chief what's happening. The chief smiles and says he's helping the tribe by making more rocks available to everyone. But here's what the chief doesn't say out loud. He's the one making Grog's 3 rocks worthless, and he's doing it on purpose. So let me explain how this works, because once you see it through rocks and meat, you'll never look at your dollar the same way again. Picture a tribe of maybe 50 people living in a valley. They hunt mammoth, they gather berries, they survive winters, and somewhere back in time, this tribe figured out that carrying meat around to trade for everything was messy and the meat would rot, so they started using smooth river rocks as money. These weren't special rocks. They were just agreed upon tokens. You hunt a mammoth, you get 10 rocks from whoever wants the meat. You need a new spear, you give the toolmaker 2 rocks. Simple system. Now here's the important part. At the beginning, there are exactly 100 rocks in circulation in this tribe. Everyone knows this. The chief keeps them in a clay pot, and when you contribute something, you get rocks. When you need something, you spend rocks. The rocks just made trading easier than lugging around meat and berries and trying to figure out if 3 fish equal 1 rabbit. And for a while, this works perfectly. A piece of mammoth meat costs 1 rock, a good spear costs 2 rocks, a warm bear hide costs 3 rocks. Everyone knows what everything costs, and the prices stay stable because the amount of stuff being made stays roughly the same and the number of rocks stays at 100. But then winter comes, and it's a hard one. The tribe gets hungry, mammoth are scarce, the hunters come back with less meat, and the storage cave that used to be full now has maybe enough dried meat for half the tribe to survive until spring. So people start fighting over meat. The price of 1 piece of mammoth meat goes from 1 rock to 2 rocks, because there's less meat but still 100 rocks chasing it. Supply and demand. The meat got rare, so its value went up compared to the rocks. Now, you're probably thinking this is just normal scarcity, right? Less food means higher prices. And you'd be correct. That's not inflation. That's just a bad winter. But here's where it gets really interesting. The tribe is starving and angry. People are showing up at the chief's cave, complaining that they can't afford meat anymore. They have 1 or 2 rocks. But meat now costs 4 rocks per piece because the hunters know they have leverage. And the chief, because he wants to stay chief and not get thrown off a cliff, has an idea. He thinks, what if I just made more rocks? Then everyone would have enough rocks to buy the meat and everyone would be happy. So one night, the chief goes down to the river and finds 200 more smooth rocks. He brings them back and announces to the tribe that he's distributing free rocks to everyone, 2 rocks per person. He calls it stimulus. The tribe celebrates. They think the chief is generous. They think he's solving the problem. And for about 3 days, it works. People who had 1 rock now have 3 rocks. They go to buy meat. The hunters sell some meat for 2 rocks per piece, same as before. Everyone eats. The chief looks like a hero. But then the hunters have a meeting. See, the hunters aren't stupid. They notice that suddenly everyone in the tribe has way more rocks than before. The total number of rocks went from 100 to 300 overnight. And the hunters think, wait, if everyone has more rocks and there's still the same amount of meat, why are we selling meat for the old price? Our meat didn't get less valuable. The rocks got less valuable. There are 3 times as many rocks, so each rock should be worth 1/3 of what it used to be worth. So the hunters raised the price. 1 piece of mammoth meat now costs 6 rocks. And just like that, the tribe is back where it started. Except now the numbers are bigger and everyone's confused about why the free rocks didn't fix anything. The chief, facing another angry mob, does the only thing he knows how to do. He goes back to the river, he gets 600 more rocks, he distributes them. Now everyone has 12 rocks. Surely, he thinks, this will fix it. The hunters raise the price to 18 rocks per piece of meat. The chief makes more rocks. The hunters raise prices. The chief makes more rocks. The hunters raise prices. And this cycle keeps going until you have a situation where a single piece of dried mammoth meat, which used to cost 1 rock, now costs 400 rocks. And people are carrying rocks around in baskets just to buy a day's worth of food. This is inflation, not the complicated economics textbook version. Just this. When you increase the number of tokens in a system without increasing the amount of actual valuable stuff, each token becomes worth less. The rocks didn't get worse. There are just way more of them, so each one buys less. Now you might be thinking, okay, but who cares? Everyone has more rocks, prices went up, it balances out, right? Nobody's really worse off. Wrong. Here's who gets destroyed in this system. Anyone holding rocks when the chief prints more. Let me show you with a real scenario. Grog's father died and left him 30 rocks. Back when there were 100 total rocks in the system, those 30 rocks represented 30% of all the money in the tribe. That's serious wealth. Grog could buy 10 mammoth, 3 bear hides, and still have rocks left over. He was set for multiple winters. But then the chief starts printing. First wave, total rocks go from 100 to 300. Grog still has 30 rocks, but now that's only 10% of the money supply. Second wave, 300 to 900 total rocks. Grog's 30 rocks are now 3%. Third wave, Grog's inheritance is worth 1% of the total money. His 30 rocks, which used to buy 10 mammoth, now buy maybe a quarter of 1 mammoth. Grog didn't spend the rocks. He didn't lose them. He didn't gamble them away. He just held them, and they evaporated in value because the chief kept making more. Meanwhile, here's who wins. The chief and anyone close to the chief. Because when the chief makes new rocks, he doesn't drop them from the sky evenly across the whole tribe. He hands them out to specific people first. Maybe his family, maybe the warriors who protect him, maybe the shaman who tells everyone the gods approve of the chief's decisions. These people get the new rocks first, before prices have gone up, so they get to spend those rocks at yesterday's prices. They buy meat for 2 rocks per piece, and by the time they're done shopping, the price has gone up to 6 rocks. They got real value. Everyone else got diluted. This is called the Cantillon effect, but you don't need to remember the name. Just remember this. In any system where someone controls the money supply, the people closest to the money printer eat first, and everyone far away from the printer starves slowly without realizing why. And here's the truly insane part. The tribe starts to forget what things used to cost. After 5 cycles of rock printing, young members of the tribe have never known a world where meat cost 1 rock. They grew up in a world where meat cost 400 rocks, and they think that's normal. They don't know their grandfather could buy a whole mammoth for 10 rocks. The price inflation has erased the living memory of what value used to look like. So when the chief prints more rocks, they don't rebel. They just accept it. They think, well, prices always go up. That's just how the world works. But it's not how the world works. It's how the chief makes the world work, because it benefits him. So let's talk about hyperinflation, because this is where the cycle breaks completely. Imagine the tribe gets into a war with the neighboring valley tribe. The chief needs to pay warriors to fight, but the tribe won't give him their rocks and taxes because they need those rocks to buy food. So the chief just makes 10,000 new rocks and pays the warriors with those. The total rock supply explodes from 1,000 to 11,000 overnight. Prices immediately go up by 10 times. A piece of meat that cost 400 rocks yesterday now costs 4,000 rocks. And now the tribe faces a psychological shift. They realize the rocks are becoming worthless so fast that holding on to rocks is stupid. If you have 100 rocks today and meat costs 4,000 rocks, you can't buy meat. But if you wait a week, meat will cost 40,000 rocks and you'll be even further from buying it. So the optimal move is to spend rocks instantly, the second you get them, before they lose more value. This creates a death spiral. Everyone tries to get rid of rocks as fast as possible. Velocity of money goes insane. Hunters won't even accept rocks anymore because by the time they go to spend those rocks, prices will have doubled again. The system collapses. People go back to barter. The rocks become decoration. And at that point, the chief has 2 choices. He can keep pretending rocks have value and watch the tribe fall apart. Or he can do what every hyperinflated society eventually does. He announces that rocks are done and the tribe will now use something else. Maybe wooden sticks, maybe shells, maybe obsidian shards. Doesn't matter. The new thing becomes money and everyone's rocks become worthless overnight. If you had 10,000 rocks, you just lost everything. If you had 0 rocks and a pile of dried meat, you're still fine, because meat is actual value, and rocks were always just tokens. Now let me bring this back to you, because you don't live in a cave and you don't trade mammoth meat, but you do use dollars, and dollars are rocks. The US money supply in the year 2000 was about $5 trillion. By the end of 2023, it was $21 trillion. That's not a slow increase over time. Most of that printing happened in 2008 and again in 2020. The government, facing crises, did exactly what the chief did: made more tokens and handed them out, hoping it would fix things. And just like in the tribe, prices went up. A house that cost $150,000 in 2000 now cost $400,000. A car that cost $15,000 now costs $40,000. A basket of groceries that cost $100 now costs $250. Your salary might have gone up a little, but it didn't go up as fast as prices. So you're Grog, holding the same number of rocks, watching them buy less. And just like in the tribe, the people closest to the money printer won. When the government printed trillions in 2008, where did it go first? Banks, Wall Street, large corporations. They got to borrow new money at near 0 interest rates before prices adjusted. They bought real assets, buildings, land, companies. By the time that money trickled down to you, prices had already gone up and your salary raise didn't cover it. You got the inflation, they got the assets. So here's your 3 takeaways, and these are not generic. First, stop holding pure cash long term. Cash is rocks. If the money supply is growing, your cash is shrinking in value. You don't have to become a day trader or buy magic internet coins. Just understand that money sitting in a checking account earning 0% interest is actively losing value if inflation is 3% per year. After 10 years, your pile of cash buys 30% less. That's not safety. That's slow confiscation. Second, understand that inflation is not a natural disaster. It's a policy choice. When the news says inflation is up, they're describing a symptom. The cause is that someone, somewhere, printed more money. Maybe they had good reasons. Maybe it prevented a depression. Maybe it saved the banks. But it wasn't an accident, and it wasn't inevitable. Someone chose to do it, and they knew it would make your existing money worth less. Third, buy things that can't be printed. Land, they're not making more of it. Companies that produce actual value, they're hard to replicate. Skills that people will pay for no matter what the currency is, those compound. The tribe members who owned the mammoth hunting grounds didn't care whether the currency was rocks or sticks. They had the meat, and everyone needs to eat. Inflation is just the chief going to the river at night and coming back with more rocks. And every time he does it, your pile gets smaller without you touching it. Nature always collects.